This is the I Read Comic Books podcast, the very best podcast for regular comic book fans. I am your host, Mike Rapin, and joining me this week, a pair of zine artists who are threatening to draw me into oblivion. This week from the Next Issue podcast, I'm joined by Danny.
I'll draw you, Mike. I'll draw you good, all right?
I'm so excited. You've drawn me once before, Danny. Now I'm scared what you'll draw now. But this week we have a special guest, the one and only Fred C. Stressing.
Hi there. How you doing?
Thank you both for joining me today. I'm super pumped to talk about comic books. It's been a minute. We took a week off. Well, Nick and I sort of took a week off. We talked about Ice Cream Man last week. I hope everyone enjoyed that. I certainly did. It's gotten me so hyped for Ice Cream Man. I can't believe there's not more than 2 more issues out to read, but that's a whole other topic of discussion. Today, we are here to talk about comic books, but before I get into that, I also have to say, the first 52 zines were mailed out to people, and they're put into people's hands. I put them in the mail on Friday. They got to a bunch of people on Monday. Some are still getting to people as of this upcoming week. It's incredible to see these zines in people's hands. And I'm here with 2 of the artists in the zine, the IRCB, totally not a cult zine. I can't believe it. I'm super excited. So let's just dive into it. I've got 2 legally mandated questions that I need to ask. And I'm going to start with how have you been? How are comic books been? And Fred, I'm going to start with you. But before you get into that, could you tell the folks at home a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Fred C. Stressing. I'm a comic book artist, writer, and a colorist. So I do all different parts of the comic book, making the sort of sausage, so to speak. Yeah, I do a lot of different stuff. I do a lot of work recently on the Rick and Morty series for Oni. I've done a bunch of work for Invader Zim. I wrote Meeseek's PI, which was a noir style, and drew Meeseek's PI, a noir style comic book set in the Rick and Morty universe about a Meeseek's who becomes a hard-boiled detective and goes out to try and solve the crime of Jerry's TV remote has gone missing. So it's a really fun read. I had a really good time doing it. And so that's the kind of stuff I've been up to lately. I've also just launched with the Doughboys podcast. Doughboys, the comic book, Nick and Mitch Chew America. Crisis on Infinite Girths. Issue 1 is out now. And it's a weird road trip story written by Alex Fuhrer, colored by Meg Casey, who I collaborate with frequently. She's my wife, and she's amazing at it. And just a really good colorist, really good writing team. And I'm so happy to be a part of this weird comedy book. So that's a little bit about the stuff I've been doing lately. And I love my cartoony sci-fi comedy stuff. Yeah,
Heck
that's
yeah,
me.
dude. That is fantastic. Crisis on Infinite Girths is maybe one of the funniest titles I've heard.
Oh, that's all Alex. It's great.
I love it. Well, outside of making comic books, I have to assume you're reading comic books as well.
Oh, yeah.
So have you been reading anything good recently?
I've been going through, so I have a massive backlog of books and things, and I've been on a bit of an Alan Moore kick lately.
Nice.
So I'm tearing through the final chapters of Saga of the Swamp Thing, which I previously had only read, I think, the first 3 volumes. That was all I had. And then I'm like, I got to get the next 6, or complete all 6.
Yeah.
And I've been reading through those, and that has been, of course, amazing. Still holds up. It's still so good. The art is incredible. Like these beautiful, tragic horror comics. That's been really nice. Also started, I've never read, I got the big Tom Strong compendium, and I'm going through that right now, which is, it's a joy. It's like a pulpy little joy with, it's just like a really fun book to read. So that's I've been just going through a bunch of different stuff, just picking and choosing. I have you can see some of my books over here, just too many things there's a bunch over there. If you see, there's a little stack there that's horizontal. That is some of my unread pile. That is some
Gotcha. I'm glad that somebody else does a similar thing on their bookshelves like that, because I'm like, otherwise I just look at the myriad of books and I go, oh, these are so pretty. Which ones haven't I read? Right.
Absolutely.
So you have to designate them into a special
really
area,
do.
right?
And I have some I just leave around where I'm like, well, get to it, but I haven't. So.
Yeah. This is why I'm still trying to read Clementine Volume 2, that Walking Dead book. Kelly Walden. It's just sitting downstairs on a side table that I'm like, one of these days I'm going to sit down and read this thing.
Oh, it's so much that. It's absolutely that. I just got, and I'm also just compulsively picking up whatever feels the most interesting in the moment. So it's rather than I'm focusing on a long series or a long run, I'm doing a little of this and doing a little of that. I read some of the Magnolia Bowling for Corpses, but it's an anthology, so I've only read pieces of it. It's great though. Oh, it's so good.
That is one of those books that like I'm almost upset with myself for having sat down and read it all in a sitting because it really is a book that you could savor for weeks if you wanted to.
Which is what I have been doing. And it's like it's really a nice way to do it. Because I mean the guy puts out, he doesn't put out that much stuff that he's writing and drawing anymore. And I'm like, I really do need to savor it for sure.
Yeah. I'm very I don't know. I probably actually sit down and reread that book. I just picked it up from the library, read it, and then sent it back because I was like, it had a bunch of holds on it.
Oh yeah.
But I need to get my own copy, I think, and then actually sit down and read it. But yeah. Anyways, it sounds like you're reading a lot. I guess the Tom Strong Compendium. I actually have no idea what that is. I never heard of this character.
Okay.
Can you tell us about it?
That's really interesting. Yeah. So that's one of the Alan Moore. And let me just make sure I'm not miscrediting the artist here. I want to say Chris Sprouse, but I could be wrong. I know it's it's Chris Sprouse. So Alan Moore and Chris Sprouse co-created Tom Strong. This was part of the ABC Comics line that did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and Top 10. And Promethea, like that Wildstorm imprint they had for a minute.
Yeah.
And so it's this, I want to say it's like a 30, 40 issue run. I haven't gotten through it all yet, but it's basically this like sort of pulp hero, like a sort of
like a Doc Savage almost?
Yeah, like a Doc Savage, yes.
Okay.
Yes, but with like a little bit of a science bend. He was raised by his parents in a chamber that was like had increased gravity, so he became super strong. It's this like goofy thing, and he like has like a robot pal and like an ape friend and stuff, and like you're like, this is like a wild thing. So it's this weird throwback retro thing that Alan Moore is doing, but in that really earnest way he did during the ABC Comics era, which I find really fascinating. It's a really fascinating reaction, I think, to his Watchmen stuff, and where everybody got like super literal with his things and super like serious. He was like, I'm going to go the other way. I'm bringing back some of the fantastical stuff and really sort of leaning into that. So it's kind of that era, and it's really a beautiful book.
Man, you're selling me on this. I cannot express how much I loved the top 10 book that he did. Maybe one of my literal top 10 comics ever, right? Like just the procedural cop drama set in the explosive, expansive superhero type universe. It's like such a fun idea, and like I don't know, Alan Moore and Gene Ha just knocking it out of the park every single issue. I could go over on and on about that. I honestly think that there may be a universe where we do a small Patreon series about that series. Now that I think about it, so Danny,
that would be awesome.
I think I'm going to force somebody to do that. Maybe you, but Anyways, I've never heard of this Tom Strong book. I'm going to have to definitely check this out because I loved everything that came out of that All-Star, All-Star
ABC,
stuff.
America's
ABC,
Best. Yeah,
America's Best. Thank you. All I can see is the little star on the side of the book. But, fantastic stuff. Okay, thank you for turning me on to this. That's very exciting. Danny, though, let's move on. Let's talk about you. Let's see how have you been? How have comic books been? What's been going on, man?
Well, Mike, I've been doing pretty well. Yesterday we had at my local shop / game shop, we had a big store showdown for the Star Wars Unlimited game.
Nice.
And although my record was even, I was 2-2, but as the owner was handing out prize packs, I pulled out the showcase card, which is like the rarest card you can pull from one of those leaders. So I was like, I won. Like I don't care what the score says, I won today.
Nice,
so
dude.
That's very
awesome.
Exciting.
Was it a specific character that you got, or was it
Hondo Onaka? Yeah, so it's a leader Hondo. So yeah, it's from a few sets ago. But I mean, those showcase, they're pretty cool. Those cards are really cool.
Heck yeah, dude.
I'm pretty excited because we have a new set dropping on Thursday. And my wallet's not so excited about it, but you know what? That's a future problem because that's going on the credit card.
Listen, Danny, they just announced Sonic cards in Magic, and like I don't even have an attachment to Sonic, and at the same time, I want to buy all of them. So it's bad. It's not like a full set, right? It's just a secret lair release, but like, I mean, $40-$50 a pack, I probably will be buying them. We'll see, but yeah, it's I feel the pain.
Yeah, no, I don't play Magic, but I definitely got some of those.
You bought Final Fantasy cards. I know. I saw you did. Fred, are you into TCG games? Do you play any of this stuff?
No, I wanted to. I got really into for a minute the this is a super weird one. I don't even think it was a good game. The 2000 X-Men movie tie-in card game, which weird, right? And
what?
Yeah, well, and I can tell you why. It's because I was like, oh, these are at a price point I can afford. They were discounted at a toy store. They're like, get them out of here. So I got a bunch of them. I collected a ton of them. It was like me and one other guy. And we like, I don't even know if we played it. I played like mine with other people, but I was like, yeah, but it didn't take off for me. Because it was kind of like dead by the time I got there. And I was like, oh, but these X-Men cards are cool. They had like really fun illustrations, like some really neat, unique things. But yeah, that was the one I got into.
Okay.
I got into HeroClix too for a minute. That was a lot of fun. But I don't have enough people interested in that to justify the costs of it for me. And it's one of those things and the other thing is I'm like, I'm a sore loser. I shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
I shouldn't play these games if I'm just going to be sad.
Those bricks, just buying those bricks of HeroClix.
Yeah, the bricks of HeroClix, right? Right. Is HeroClix still going?
It is. It's
okay.
Still going strong.
I didn't know. I was like, it must be.
I mean, all I ever wanted, I just wanted like a handful of the little guys that are just my favorite characters. That's all that I want. But maybe we'll talk about more of that in the post show. I think that could be very fun.
Sure.
Kara is asking us to talk about Hondo Anaka, so maybe we'll do a whole thing. But Danny, what have you been reading? What comics have been on your plate recently?
Well, Mike, I want to say first of all, if you want another reason to join the Patreon, it's because you can also be part of more of these choose your own adventure episodes.
Right.
So on Friday, I'm catching up because I'm living up to one of my resolutions that we talked about in a previous episode. After I read a number 1 of a series, I'm actually now going back and completing those series. So on Friday, I presented the Discord an option on what book they wanted me to talk about today. And it was Godzilla Heist, the first volume of Iron Man, which is the Stark Roxxon War, the first volume of Psylocke, or what was the fourth option? I read too many right now. Oh, the Mummy, the Universal Monsters, the
Universal Monsters Mummy. Yeah.
So the Discord has spoken. They voted and they wanted me to talk about Godzilla Heist, which I can only do so thanks to my friends over at IDW because they sent me issue number 5, which will be out the day that this is dropping.
Yeah.
So I won't go into spoilers for the story, but I'll give you what I thought of the series as a whole. But let's talk about the creative team first, because without them, none of these things get made, right? This is written by Van Jensen with art by Kelsey Ramsey, colors by Heather Breckel, and letters by Sandy Tanaka. This book, I was very much into it because this is, it's a heist. And I was like, how is the Godzilla book going to be a heist? So
it's Mission Impossible style where it drops from the ceiling, like somehow.
I want to see Godzilla get through the laser field like in that Ocean 12 movie.
Yeah, Catherine Zeta-Jones, babe.
I like that Resident Evil cutscene.
But in this book, a crew of criminals led by Jai leverage Godzilla's rampages in London as the ultimate distraction to pull off the heist of a lifetime.
Okay.
So if you've seen the movie Hurricane Heist, it's a very similar concept. Just replace Godzilla with a hurricane.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So we meet the crew, and Jay uses these like energy signals to lure Godzilla into wherever he wants him to be positioned. While they rob banks, casinos, like that's what he's doing. But then this crew comes up to him like, we have a mission, and they kind of force Jay to join against his will, kind of. Or is that all part of his plan? Because with any good heist movie, there are twists and turns and double backs, and it was all part of the plan. So I love the Oceans movies. So like this was right up my alley.
That's fantastic.
The art is fantastic. I had read some of Ramsey's work in one of the Dark Dungeon books, and it has a lot of texture to it, which I feel like a Godzilla book needs to have. It needs to be a little bit gritty, especially when you're doing like, it's criminal activity, but you also want to have Godzilla destroying the city. Like it all really works. And the colors are magnificent, especially when Godzilla has to use his blast. As with any good book, we do get hints of like, oh, is Mecha Godzilla out there? Because that's apparently the only way that humanity has to stop Godzilla. It has so many layers, so many things, and just like, the crew, they all have their little archetypes, so like that works on that level. So if you like a heist book, I think you're gonna have a good time with this. If you like just a Godzilla nonsense rampage book, this also has a lot of that. There's the kaiju battles, but then there's also like the exploration of like, why do these people, what are they after, right? What's the master plan? What are the twists? What are the double crosses? Who's betraying who? And will they get away with everything? Because Godzilla is unpredictable. You can't control Godzilla as much as as much as you can try. It's a dangerous proposition. So it's very, very cool. And I wrote on the notes, like, just because we can doesn't mean we should. And then like the Jurassic Park music starts playing, right? Yeah. So shout out to Jeff Goldblum, a role of a lifetime.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great stuff. I love big kaiju nonsense, and IDW is really doubling down on Godzilla, like mainly probably because it's the only property that they still have. But yeah, I mean, they have the new era, the Kaisera era that's coming. Yeah. They have the Escape the Dead Zone comic, which I've gotten to read both of those thanks to some advanced review copies, and man, oh man, both of them are incredible. So yeah, if Godzilla's in good hands, if you don't want to read the stuff from DC versus the Justice League, or you don't want to watch Godzilla destroy the Marvel Universe, you can always just go back to the core. So Godzilla's everywhere. It's incredible.
I mean, it's the 70th anniversary for Godzilla, so it makes sense, right? They're really, really pushing. I think Toei as the company is really, really pushing. But but that said, if you're a kaiju lover, I think you're having the best year ever. Like 2025 is great for your various Godzilla media or kaiju media. That sounds fantastic, Danny. I think I really want to read this book. I know I saw the 5th issue come in, and I was like, "Oh man, this could be really fun." So I'm glad to hear that it's been fun. And shout out to the folks on Discord again for voting on this. This is really cool. Let me talk a little bit about what I have been reading. So after an episode I recorded with Kara recently, I was like, I got to make a Fantagraphics order, and I got to buy this Disney book that she was telling us about. But as part of that, I was like, I want to get some free shipping. So I was looking around the Fantagraphics site to see like what stuff I bought recently from them, because I had a problem for a minute where I was buying like 3/4 of their catalog, and I needed to stop because that's way too many comics. So instead, I was just, browsing around, and I saw this manga series called Search and Destroy by Atsushi Kaneko. The story was originally by, quote, god of manga Osamu Tezuka, the creator of Astro Boy. But it's a reimagining of this story that Tezuka had created way back in like the 50s or 60s called Dororo. And the pitch is basically revenge is at the center of this dark postmodern techno world where a warrior is hellbent on killing the robotic humanoids who have her body parts. 48 in total. She is pissed. It is an insane book, right? It's only a 3-volume series. But the pitch is that there's this woman who has missing a bunch of her body parts, and robots are using them, right? So the first chapter, it covers her hunting down a guy who's using her tongue to eat food. His whole thing is, as robots, they can't like experience the same things as humans, so they use these human parts on like the black market in order to like feel things differently. And this guy in particular is eating food. That's his whole thing. It's such a crazy concept, and I was like, I'm in. And of course, the original story back in the 50s and 60s, not nearly as gross, I think, or as intense, but the premise was still there. A child's father made a deal with a demon to basically keep him alive by giving away 48 of his body parts to these demons, and then the guy, as an older person, has to go hunt down those demons. But he gets this little thief friend who hangs out with him. So in this story, we meet this little girl who's also a thief, and they kind of ceremoniously work together. It's a very interesting book. The first volume is killer. I'd never seen anything by Kaneko before, but apparently they had a couple other series come out that were pretty popular. One of them was translated into English. I believe it was called EVOL, or no, that's their new one. But they've had a couple series that were very popular in Japan, and this is like one of their big recent translations over to English. And the thing that I found to be very interesting is that the reason why this book is translated and being published is because it was Chip Zdarsky and his manga splaining podcast, through their newsletter, they've been putting out chapters of different series that they find interesting and they want to have English translations for. So they've been publishing the individual chapters through their Substack newsletter that people can pay for. And then Fantagraphics has been collecting them into volumes and publishing them. And I'm like, that is a killer way to get lesser known non-English books into our hands. I really, really love that. I had a blast reading this. Love the fact that at the end of the book, there's this big manga splaining link to it, or call out to all the people that are on that. The art is super, super intense. You can smell Daniel Klaus's influence on this book, in a way that, like, I've never seen a manga artist influenced by a Western artist in this kind of way before. A lot of really interesting, just the way that they do a lot of their heavy black lines and stuff. I'm like, that feels like a Klaus book, but it's not. It's clearly someone else's individual style, but like there is an influence there. And I really I don't know, something about that gripped me while reading this. So had a lot of fun. I picked this up on a whim and I was like, I'm so pleased. And it's the third volume's coming out very soon. So if you're looking for a short manga series that's like really graphic, I'll warn you, it's a very violent book, but a really interesting, just like story. I definitely am certain you've never read before. Like nothing compares to something like this that I've read in a while. So highly recommend this. I really, really loved it. It's a little expensive. It's like 16 or 18 bucks a volume, but like really well done. It's Fantagraphics, so you're going to get a nice high quality print. It's going to feel really good. The cover design is some of the coolest cover design I've seen in a minute. Highly recommend Search and Destroy. It's such a cool book. I'm like I said, very excited for the third volume, but yeah, amazing stuff.
I gotta check that out now. You had me at Violent Dan Klaus.
I mean, that's what it feels like.
That's really interesting. No, all of that sounds really interesting, and I'm super intrigued. I got to take a look at this.
Yeah, I stumbled on this randomly, but I can't believe maybe I should be listening to this manga splaining podcast. Maybe those guys know what they're doing over there.
Yeah, maybe Chip Zdarsky knows what's up.
I know, all right.
I love the idea of the having this kind of like running countdown of body parts to collect, right? That's such a fun device because like it's kind of like the 100 bullets book, right? Like, oh yeah, like totally. Is it about the 100 bullets or is there more to it? Is that the finality of it?
Yeah,
I've never finished that story, so I don't know, but this one sounds a lot more doable with only 3 volumes out. So
I mean, and the reason why, so like the little background here that I can give about the book is that like this story was published as part of a celebratory like magazine where they were like trying to celebrate Osamu Tezuka's life, and this artist was asked to draw something from their catalog or reimagine something from their catalog. Now, the original series Dororo was actually an extremely shortened series, just because I think it didn't sell well or it wasn't very popular. And so Tezuka had to kind of compress the last, I don't know, like 30 or 40 body parts into like an ending of the story. Don't go look that up because it will fully spoil like the whole book like it did for me, but nonetheless I'm still very intrigued, and I like, again, the idea of like a short quick manga series. So but it's very, very cool, very interesting. But let's move on. Otherwise I will talk about the intricate details of this book all day. Let's talk about comics that are on the top of our pile, whether they are new or old or just something you're trying to get off of your shelf. Anything off of your pile on the back of your bookshelf, Fred, you're welcome to talk about here. I want to kick things over, I guess, to Danny. What is on the top of your pile this week?
Well, Mike, the question really should always be this week, like, what isn't on the top of my pile? But I'll talk about one thing in particular.
Listen, if they're all number one, then none of them are number one, Danny. Come on.
But I do have I will say, this gets very difficult. It's a lot more difficult because there's so many good books out like right now, so many collections. So one thing I've been doing is also like I look ahead of what collections are coming out soon, because obviously I want to read comics, but I also want to talk about them on my YouTube channel. You know, kill 2 birds with 1 stone there. It's such a cool thing that we could just go in and see like this is coming up, so like then I'll talk about that. But this week I had to go with some actual new books that are coming out this week from Marvel. First, quick shout out to X-Men Hellfire Vigil, 1 year removed from the end of Krakoa, which feels insane. They're doing a little anthology kind of book to I don't know, maybe sell another X-Men book, but also to just gotta look back on what's been going on since then, and maybe also kind of to maybe put a little bit of a, we're coming to the end of this X-Men era, because it feels like everything's about to reboot anyways. But speaking of reboots, and Chip Zdarsky, which was a perfect segue, like the book I'm reading is by Chip Zdarsky. It is the new Captain America #1. Chip Zdarsky with art by Valerio Schiti, colors by Frank Martin, letters by Joe Caramagna. This is going to give us the untold tale of Captain America's first encounter with Doctor Doom. As you guys probably know, Doctor Doom is very hot right now. He's everything everyone's talking about, whether it's in your comics or the movies.
Yeah.
Everybody wants Doom. While Captain America slumbered in the ice, the world changed for better and worse. Steve Rogers awakens to a reality where battles are fought in shadows through secrets and subterfuge, and villains aren't so easy to identify. When a fledgling dictator named Victor Von Doom conquers Latveria, Steve faces a critical decision: adapt to a new kind of warfare or forge his own path. What choice will he make? What does this mean for his future? I don't know, but I've never read how Doom gained power in Latveria, and if this book delves into that, I mean, I'm all in for it. This is a backdoor Doctor Doom book, and I love it.
I mean, yeah.
But even if that wasn't the case, like Chip Zdarsky's written some of my favorite stuff in the past few years, with like Avengers Twilight, the Batman run that he just finished, the Daredevil done that he wrapped up a little while ago as well, Spider-Man, and then Valerio Schiti, like his art, like Avengers, Empire, the Powers of X, the Mighty Thor, like it's incredible stuff. So like I'm always gonna check out a #1 book. I'm always gonna check out a Captain America book, even if sometimes they're not for me. Like the run that just wrapped up, the Straczynski, it wasn't for me, but I checked it out, and it was fine, and it had its own audience. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this because I love a Chip Zdarsky book, especially because he's a well-known manga reader. So we know he's got good taste.
Yeah, dude, I all this Doctor Doom business makes me think that the Fantastic Four movie's not actually going to be about Galactus. Okay, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm putting out there. I don't know, but very excited to check this out as well. Actually, Danny, this is the first Captain America book I think I'm buying since Civil War. No, that's maybe not completely true. That might be true. Damn, is that true? That's crazy to think about. But yeah, Chip Zdarsky on this would be very maybe not buy, probably check out a Marvel Unlimited, but nonetheless, let's be real here. Yeah, that's a killer team, very, very killer team. I think these guys work well together. Yeah, I'll say that. But Fred, what about you? What is on the top of your pile? What are you reading next?
So right now I'm going through Powers anniversary is coming up. The comic book Powers, I believe it's the 25th anniversary of Powers, the series.
Ooh.
By Bendis and by Brian Michael Bendis and Mike Oeming. Working on that book for decades now. Yeah. So I have been revisiting this and catching up because I fell off some time ago. I think it was just hopping from publisher to publisher for a little while, and I sort of lost track. And a very nice friend of mine named Jim said, "Hey, I have all these Powers hardcovers. I'm downsizing. Do you want them?" I'm like, "Yes, I do. I would love to go back through this series because I have some of them in paperback, but it's really incomplete." So I'm going through Powers right now.
Heck
Speaking
yeah.
of the top 10 police procedural superhero stuff. I got Gotham Central over here too somewhere. So I'm like going through Powers right now, and it's really early on, and it's interesting because you can see I'm in like the first few issues right now, just going through Who Killed Retro Girl, and I've got so much more to go through. I don't know if either of you have read this or remember this series.
I funny enough, I watched all the TV show, and I read the first volume.
It's like PlayStation exclusive TV show.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember. Wow. I did not see that show. I just am aware of it. But yeah, no, I'm going through this, and it's really interesting to see because it's really, the ideas are really coming through, and it's a really strong opener. But I know my memory of it is it gets much stronger, and you really see Bendis get more comfortable as a writer. He's also writing, as this continues, more stuff from Marvel. So you can see throughout all of this, his writing gets stronger. His narrative and his dialogue really starts to coalesce into something where you're like, oh, this is really good. It's all very specifically in that Bendis flavor from the early 2000s, but it's really come together to make this gritty superhero crime story. And it's really fun. And you can see as it goes on, Mike Oeming's art just like really graduate from like really like very stylish, very cool to being like hyper stylish and really well paced and like really well thought out from page to page in a way that you can really only get when you're just pumping these out month by month. It's really cool to see. I love seeing the growth through a series of a creative team. And that's one of the things I'm looking forward to most about this journey and Powers 25, to see where, when they come back, like, what's it going to be? What are we going to be seeing? So yeah, no, I'm having a really nice time with it. It's been fun to go through. I'm really looking forward to it. It's like a tall stack. That stack's not even over here. But it's like a stack of like yay big, I don't know, something like that, where I'm like, there's a lot to go through, and I can't wait to do it.
Man, I can't believe that they are doing a 25th anniversary. It's so exciting. If only because like I feel like when I started to get into comics, like I wasn't really like into comics when I was younger. I got into comics like in college. I'd heard about this series. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, and I checked it out a little bit. But the fact that like even after all that time, it's been 20 years and they're doing more. That's so crazy.
I think they took a big gap. I don't know for how long. I'm not sure, but yeah, and they're coming back. I want to say Dark Horse is publishing them now.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
I think. Yeah. So yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm like, it'd be just nice to catch up. I love these continuations people are doing. I was really into this one. Is not a looking forward to. This is like I just caught up with. But I just caught up with Eric Powell's new Goon miniseries for the Goon.
Nice.
And I was like, this one's all black and white. It's really interesting. It's very different in that style. It's just different in that it's black and white, but it's really a unique way to look at it. And I really love seeing his stuff in grayscale and the way he renders. And Eric Powell is so good at making characters who are funny, but can also feel like these deep emotions. He can draw these things so well. And when he starts getting to like the grayscale rendering on his pages, his drawings take on this really interesting 3-dimensional quality. They're almost like little maquettes all over the page, kind of like a Richard Corbin-y style look, where you're like, they feel really like you could hold them. The volume is really sturdy. And he's a great storyteller. It's been a really fun thing to revisit and get back to. I'm really enjoying this creator-owned revivals happening. It's one of my favorite things I'm seeing.
Hell yeah, dude. Did you read, I don't know if you're into serial killer books at all, but did you read Did You Hear What Eddie Gein Done book?
I did get that.
Dude,
it's crazy.
Beautiful book. I mean, Eric Powell's art is such a perfect pick for that. I'm so glad that he was able to work on that with Harold Schechter. Like, I mean, I've always seen Goon as like a character in a book series that had been out there, but like that was the book that I read. I went, oh, Eric Powell's art is stunning, and I've been meaning to go back.
Well, it's one of those things too where you're like, I feel as though sometimes if there's like super cartoony elements, it obscures it because it's like, oh, it's goofy, it's fun, but then you're like, no, there's so much skill behind it. It's really incredible. Right. I'm looking forward to the Dr. Worthless book they're putting out. Harold Schechter and Eric Powell are putting out, I believe, this year, probably in a couple months. I'm not sure when, but they're doing it
out soon. Yeah, July, because I got the comp for it from Dark Horse.
Nice.
Yeah.
The book about Frederick Wortham and the comics controversy. So I can't wait. I know they're gonna nail it.
Man, all right. Well, this is something that was not on my list, and I'm very much looking forward to that now. So thank you for bringing it to my attention. Danny, how could you not tell me about this? We'll talk about this after the show. But let me talk about what's on the top of my pile this week. I am looking forward to reading a book, or I guess I should shout out some of our Discord folks. CK this week is going to be reading Batman Dark Patterns, and Sugars is going to be reading Downgrades #1, which looks like a nice little Kickstarter about D-list superheroes, and on the cover there's a giant frogman. So immediately I'm interested because there's a frogman.
I'll say, like, I could make an argument for Batman Dark Patterns being the best Batman book currently in the out there. Dan Waters and Hayden Sherman are doing some incredibly like gnarly stuff with.
Is Hayden Sherman allowed to be on so many books? I don't understand how that's possible. Okay, that's fine.
As long as his hand holds up.
Like, I haven't read Dark Patterns yet, but I just want to say about the covers. I love the covers. I love I was talking with someone on a different Discord, and we were talking, and she was saying about how like, oh, I love that it looks like the Legends of the Dark Knight, and I'm like, yes, it looks like the Legends of the Dark Knight from the 90s. That like, it just throws me right back there, and I'm like, oh, this is very, very cool and exciting. Yeah, you're saying it's the best Batman on the stands right now.
They went back to and I love Absolute Batman. So it's.
I'll tell you my favorite Batman in a second. Yeah. But I'll go now.
Yeah, go for it.
Currently, I am really in love. I'm enamored with the Mark Waid, Chris Samney, Batman and Robin Year One, which I'm just like, that's for me. That's mine right there.
That's good.
I've really enjoyed Absolute Batman, but the Samney Waid, I'm just like, Waid has been doing his recent DC stuff has been just so consistently fun and like super heroic. And like I was saying with Tom Strong, it's kind of like there's like a throwback to a simpler era, but he's telling it in just such a sharp way. And Samney's work is so classic. His work is almost Milton Caniff. It's almost like newspaper style from the 30s and 40s with like this really strong figures and inks and folds of jackets and stuff. It's like, I really can't get enough of that. I have been dying for Chris Samney to draw Batman since he's been doing his Bat-tobers.
Yeah. Dude, his Inktober are something else. Yeah,
and he's been doing those for a few years, and I'm just like, when are they gonna get him on Batman?
Nice. Well, let me talk about a book that I'm reading next, and then we'll bug you with some more questions, Fred.
Sure.
So I'm going to be reading a book called Second Shift. This is by Kit Anderson. It's a Kickstarter book from Avery Hill Press. It's a sci-fi story about questioning your own reality, and I freaking just love that concept. I think the story follows like a person who's working out in like a space suit in like a part of the universe on a ship, and they start to see things that they aren't sure if they're real or not, and it causes them to kind of question their entire existence in reality, which sounds like a very high concept thing, but it feels to me like that movie Oblivion way back in the day with Tom Cruise, where like he's like, I don't really know where I'm at or what I'm doing, but I do this thing. It feels like that, but I trust Kit Anderson. I've read some of their previous stuff. This seems like it's going to be real, just like meshing with my brain, and I'm totally down for that. Plus, Avery Hill Press keeps publishing comics I seem to really be into, at least in pitch form. I immediately gravitate towards them, like Adrift on a Painted Sea by Tim Bird, which was maybe one of the most beautiful comics I've ever read, hands down, in terms of like showing someone that you care about them. Totally love that book. And then The Hard Switch by O&D Pomeroy is just like, there's a way that O&D Pomeroy draws that scratches an itch inside of my brain that I cannot properly explain with words. But yeah, long story short, like Avery Hill put this Kickstarter out. I saw the cover. I saw some of the pitch for the book, and I was like, immediate, yes, doesn't matter really what else you put on your Kickstarter campaign. I'm here for this. So I'm very excited now that I have the actual physical book at home. I can read it. But at the end of the day, I've said this before on the show, Kickstarter may be the best way to get vibes off of comics in terms of like, am I actually going to be into this thing? I feel like 9 times out of 10, you can get that off of how a Kickstarter is put together and some of the preview art and just how it's pitched to you. Which is a shame because I do love the direct market for a lot of things. But man, there's something about a Kickstarter that just like gives you so much information that it really, really works for me. But yeah, so Second Shift by Kit Anderson. I'm very excited to finally read that.
I really appreciate Mike's ability to always bring up books that I've never heard of, and I feel like I'm relatively plugged into the comic like atmosphere. So yeah, it's always good. It's always good to be back on a show with Mike, or at least listen to it, because I'm like, what? Where did this come from? And then of course, it's a Kickstarter book, and only Mike got the one edition of it or whatever the case may be. So.
Listen, my original notes for this episode were, this is exactly like classic Mike bullshit, like limited edition, only on Kickstarter. You can't find it anymore. Or it's a zine of some kind. No,
it's
you can buy this
of a menu of a restaurant that's already closed. So.
You can buy this from Avery Hill Press. I highly recommend you do. I just happened to see it on the Kickstarter, and that's where I just got my copy from that. Nice. But yeah, really, everybody should go check out Avery Hill Press. They're putting out some really interesting books from creators that are, I don't know, it's a slower vibe in general, right? It doesn't feel like it's action packed and like, everything has to be exploding all the time and fast paced. It's like everything that I've read from them seems to have like a down tempo pace in a way that is very soothing in some ways. Even if their books they'll break your heart or they'll make you feel things. It's very slow rather than like rushing to the end, which is crazy to say because books like The Hard Switch by Owen D. Pomeroy is a very short book, but I felt like it was very impactful and slow paced, which made it feel longer in a good way, even though it was so few pages. So, yeah. Anyways, we can talk more about that in the post credits because I'll go through the entire catalog of books that I feel like are different vibe. But we're here to talk to our friend Fred today. Fred, you did a fantastic page in the zine that we put out. Totally Not a Cult. You picked one of the craziest titles, which was Moby Dick, but better.
Yes.
And boy, oh boy, did you deliver.
Good.
I'm a big fan of it. I mean, I love every page in our zine. How do you pick your favorite child? I don't know. But, really, really love your page that you did.
Yeah,
Danny
I
also
had
did
such a good time with it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did because I wasn't sure where you were going to go, and boy, oh boy, you knocked it out of the park.
Good. Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, I was like, I have an idea for this, and it's odd, but follow me here.
Yeah. I mean, your style totally works for that too.
Was there another title that caught your attention before that one?
I think there was a Ninja Turtle one. I'm not sure about, and then there was one about beating up Hitler, which I'm all for.
Yeah,
and I was like, well, maybe this one, but
Okay.
Moby Dick feels like the one where you're like, look, this is probably the more fun one. The other one's a little too real these days.
Yeah.
A classic.
Yeah. Maybe I'll still draw that one.
Yeah. But no, so Fred, I am curious, I think you our friend Matt Burbridge reached out to me and told me about who you were and what you did. And I was like, all right, we got to talk to this guy. Love your stuff. Love the style that you have.
Thank you. Yeah.
Your comics over at Oni Press have been really impressive. So I'm curious, like, how did you get into comics? Like, how did you start reading? How did you start drawing? Like, how did that whole process go?
So, the reading takes me like way back far. So it all starts with Garfield.
Okay, awesome.
A little bit. It all starts with my dad getting the physical newspaper and reading the newspaper, and it'd be Sunday, and he'd be like, "Oh, here's the funny pages," and I go, "Okay, let's check this out." And so it was right at the end of that. I don't want to call it necessarily like the second renaissance of comics, but it was like the tail end of Bloom County, the tail end of Calvin and Hobbes, like these things like Far Side maybe still being rerun, kicking around. I'm getting in, this is like early 90s, and I'm seeing some stuff that like genuinely is like, oh, this is great. There's great stuff happening in the newspaper and everybody's seeing it because there's still great newspaper strips out there now. I just want to put that out there and say that. However, they're definitely buried and obscured by everything else in the culture now and everything being so online. Like, I know there's stuff people are making that's amazing, but nothing that had the same, that was like the last time in the newspapers you could really get that kind of discussion or distribution, really.
Yeah.
You got like the last one I can think of that kind of had that was the Boondocks.
Yeah.
And that was like early 2000s, right? That was like the last one I feel like, maybe Get Fuzzy, that made like a big splash. And then it's sort of like, Boondocks ended. Get Fuzzy, I think, is still running, but I'm not sure. And again, I'm not reading these newspapers, so I don't know.
Right.
But so I started reading those as a kid, and I was like, what's this? What's that? And I was really fascinated because my dad would read them to me before I could really read. And he would go, oh, here's like, say, he's like, oh, it's The Far Side by Gary Larson. And I'd go, huh? And he'd go, yeah, by a guy. A guy made this. These people make these things. And I'm like, make these things, eh? So no, it was one of those things where I was really fascinated with the form of it. Yeah. And then as soon as he goes, oh yeah, people actually made this, it really, for whatever reason, really early on, started developing that, like, or I'd watch old Looney Tunes and he'd be like, oh, this one's by Chuck Jones. He does good ones. And he's like, my dad's not super up on all this stuff, but he's like, oh, I recognize this was made by this person. And these are the ones I like. And I was like, so I was making these little connections where I'm like, the stuff I like comes from specific people and you can follow them and see the sort of stuff that they do.
Yeah.
which was a huge like moment for me as a child, where it was like you just sort of go, oh wow. And I'll say another one. So I started getting when I was really young, when I could start to read Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain comics. It's like early 90s. And I fell in love with this one artist's style on the Pinky and the Brain comic. His name was Walter Carzon. And I don't know what he's doing now. I think he does a lot of Looney Tunes stuff still. But he had a really specific way of drawing Pinky and the Brain. And I don't think he inked them. I want to say, this just sounds crazy now. I want to say Scott Hanna was doing them back then. That might not be it. But I have some memory of an inker doing his work in the 90s. And the way that the characters looked better than the cartoon. They had specific postures, and their faces were on a very specific model that was like, that's Walter's model for the Brain or for Pinky. That doesn't quite line up with what the show has, but I like it better. I'm more fascinated by that. And he was one of the first names in a comic book I looked at and I went, I'm going to remember this guy. This guy is really good. There was one that I loved, this one cover. I don't remember what issue, but if you look up Pinky and the Brain Mummy, you should be able to find it. Pinky and the Brain comic book Mummy. Okay. And it's the Brain like dressed as in wrappings, like going like, and I was way into Egypt as a kid. So all of this was hitting me. The rendering was so fun. And I was like, this is so cool. I remember tracing that thing and being like, look at this. This is crazy. All the details of like all the folds on the the wrappings and stuff. I was like, this is great. So I started off just drawing all the time, getting really into comics and animation, and just following different creators from place to place. As I got older, I started to get into the superhero comics. I think I started reading Batman. Too young.
Sure.
For sure.
I mean, in the 90s, late 90s,
Yeah, late 90s. There's one, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like 8, and I get one, and it's crazy. It's this Batman annual. Oh, no, I would have been a little older by now, but still. Okay. Batman annual, I want to say 2000, 2001, right before No Man's Land. And which is a dark era. There's some grim stuff in No Man's Land. And it's all about a ghost wanting to hop into the body of an unborn child so it can live the rest of its life. And I'm like, yeah, this is the greatest thing. Crazy to read as a child.
Sure,
but great. And I was also reading like my library had Dark Knight Returns, and I'm like, I'm not sure I get this. Well, there's something here. I was like, I don't understand, but I like it.
Right, but it looks really cool.
Oh, it looks really cool. I'm like, why is Batman dressed as this old lady with like scabs? I don't know. And you know what? I still don't know, but I like it.
He loves a disguise.
He loves a disguise.
Loves a disguise.
But I'm like, but that sir was an insane disguise. Mm-hmm. Bruce, what's up?
He couldn't pass his Matches Malone's anymore, so he had to pivot.
Oh, that's it. He's like, well, Matches Malone should by all rights be dead by now. Like, there's no way that guy makes it. Yeah. So I started reading those, and my art started to shift towards. I tried to make my art shift towards more realistic, superhero comic book style. And I was really fixated on them. Like, I want to be the next superhero guy. I want to be the next this or that. And so I really started like leaning that way, until I had another breakthrough. Somehow I'd missed it all through my childhood. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? I saw around the age of, I want to say 12. And it was like a lightning bolt for me.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things I'm like, I want to see it, but everyone's like, it's a little adult. You got to wait. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just read about, ghosts possessing unborn babies. This will be rad.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll have to wait. And I watched it, and I was blown away by the whole of it, the whole thing of it. And it reignited my love of cartoony stuff and of like humor comics and all that. Because I'd kind of put that, like, that thing you do when you're like early teens, preteen, and you're like, yeah, that's for babies. I'm serious now.
Yeah.
I'm the serious guy now. And you're like, obviously Simpsons doesn't count, but I'm the serious guy now. Cartoons, there's, whatever. And then I was like, no, there's so much good stuff in them, actually. And it sort of was like this thing where I started to merge a little bit more of the cartoony stuff with some of the more realistic stuff. And I started to get into other artists. Like Jack Davis is huge for me. Jack Davis's work on old Mad and old illustration stuff. And that's, I think, why Eric Powell connects so close, because I know there's huge Jack Davis influence on Eric Powell. And he would have this, like, he could draw someone who's like, that's like realistic-y or comic book realistic at least, but he could also do these wild cartoon things with these exaggerations. And they had these weird, like these big meaty hands with like angles and this fascinating way of drawing things. And I just sort of was like, you can kind of have it both ways.
Right.
It just depends on the story you're telling. Well, it's like you were saying with the, did you hear what Eddie Gein done book or did? That book has that thing where you're like, oh, wow, he's going like, it's still got that style. It's still got the Eric Powell style to it, but he's going, the way he's telling the story is very grounded. And that really makes it all the more horrific. Just like that was a book that was legitimately a book that I finished reading and like I feel like a little queasy. It's like weird.
It's a book that like really sickens you in a way that you're like, I didn't think the comic was going to make me feel like this, right?
To be honest, I'm like, most media doesn't make me feel like this now. I'm like, I watch too many horror movies and I'm like, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. What'd you think of Hereditary? It's okay.
Yeah. Nothing scary in that. Whatever. Who cares?
Could have had more. No, that one stuck with me. I like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that kind of thing really struck me. So then I started doing like more cartoon stuff, and so I sort of started studying more from like life drawing and stuff as I was in my teens, and just going from there. Just weirdly knowing most of my life that I'm like, I would like to do comics.
Sure.
I really want this, like a through line of like comics or cartoons. I'm like, that's my through line. There'd be those other things like any child has where it's like, actually, I want to be a fireman. I want to play hockey. Yeah. You know, you're like, all right. Yeah. You're going to have these things where you're like, that'd be cool. You know, but the strongest through line was I want to make comics. I want to tell stories. The libraries I had near me were indispensable because they actually had comic collections and just stuff where I'm like, I'd see other people later on who would do comics. And I'm like, oh, have you read this? Have you read that? And they're like, no, I haven't. I'm like, I was so lucky. I was so lucky to get all these things. I have a stack to this day. I still have a stack of the old thin paperback Tintins that my library was discarding. And I'm like, I got to get these Tintin books. I got to read these. And like, what a storyteller. Hergé is like amazing. And it was really one of those where it's like, oh, this is really cool. You can do a lot more than just the newspaper strip or just the periodical, the like issue format. It's really dense. I started getting into Will Eisner from there, just having this really, I don't know who was curating that collection, but they were doing an amazing job. And it really, if only just for me. I mean, it was just one of those things where you're like, oh, I am learning so much. It was this beautiful period where this would have been early 2000s where not only, and I talk about this a lot because this is one of my watersheds, I would get a lot of these comics from the library and you read a Will Eisner, you're like, I've never seen anything like this. It's blowing my mind. Or you get like an old Crazy Cat collection. You're like, what is this? Old Popeyes. You're like, amazing. All these things that you're just sort of like slowly going through and finding. You're like, this is so good. Meanwhile, in the 2000s, I'm reading Marvel comics and they are going crazy. Like 2000s Marvel, I'm like, what is this? They're pushing the boundaries of these things in ways there's a bit of bias because I'm older now and I've seen more stuff, but in ways that feel like they haven't since, where it's like you're getting the Marvel Knights stuff. You're getting some of the Max series that I shouldn't have been looking at. You're getting the Ultimate Universe coming up. So you get like Ultimate Spider-Man. You're getting all these new writers and artists cutting their teeth on these established characters. And Joe Quesada going, I don't know, do something new. What can it hurt at this point? Right. Because they just got out of the bankruptcy. They're going in different directions. And it's like, so you have like new X-Men and X-Force and just that like that moment, that distilled moment where they're going like picking such odd things. Do you remember the Unstable Molecules book. It was fantastic. Yeah, there's oh boy, look this up. This is really cool. There's a book. I'm trying to remember much of it. I actually need to read it again. It's a group of people in the real world who are sort of parallels to the Fantastic Four, but it's just an indie story told with similar archetypes to those in Fantastic Four. Let me look this up. Make sure I'm not misspeaking.
Yeah, it's a 4-issue limited series by Guy Davis and James Storm.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, that's it. It's so odd and unique, and it's one of those things. It's really good. It's like a really, I recall it being kind of like slice of life, but it's just really, really well done, unique take on Marvel stuff. Like not even like directly is like this is the Fantastic Four. It's like no, it's like adjacent to it. There's probably even a comic in it or a character in it reading the Fantastic Four comics in Marvel Universe in it. Okay, you know what I mean? Okay. So I'm like I'm trying to remember. This is like hazy, but they're doing these things where you're like, what is this? This is crazy, and the talent they're bringing in is so unique and different. Like you said, Guy Davis. Who is not an artist I would think of as a Marvel artist in any way. Like he's great. He's phenomenal. His BPRD is some of my favorite. The Marquee book he did is a tour de force. If you haven't read that one, look that up. So good. And these things are just going on at Marvel. So I'm having that experience and I'm reading all these library books and it's just like my mind is expanding with the possibility of comics. And it's so exciting and enticing. Plus, God, webcomics. So webcomics start up then too, and are actually a viable thing. So all this is going on, and I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to do. So so I graduate and I go to college. My first college is I went to the Finger Lakes Community College in upstate New York, where I got degrees in graphic design because they didn't have anything super like comics heavy.
Right.
I was definitely in that state of mind where I'm like, do I need college? I don't know if I need college. I just want to do comics. Glad I did college, but you know, it's one of those things where you're young and you're like, I don't know, do I even need it? I know what I want to do. And after that, after I did really well there, I started applying to other art colleges, and I was like, Savannah has a sequential art program. The Savannah College of Art has a program there specific to sequential art. And I was like, guys, I think I'm going to try for it. I think I'm going to try for this with, you know, and if it doesn't work out, I tried type of thing. And it was really, really good to have the opportunity to do that. And for anyone listening who's like, I want to make comics or is like younger, I do want to stress, especially now, you do not need to go to college to make comics. I did partially because I'm like, I don't want to go to real college and I want to make comics. Yeah. So you're like, oh, best of both worlds. Awesome. You know, but I wouldn't have been able to do it without like years of community college and good scholarships, like, because it's insane and it can be a real burden. The cost of admissions and the workload is heavy, but now there are so many resources available for people everywhere online. You can just, you know, go to a bookstore. There's so many more resources specific to comics and sequential art now, where when I was younger, it was like, okay, well, you have the Eisner book. And like, as I was going to college, just like Scott McCloud made a book about it. You're like, oh, all that stuff is like, and now it's like, there's just so many, and there's professionals who are like, I'll talk to you about it. I'll do whatever. It's so much easier to have that access. And I know artists are teaching their own classes on different things too. And I'm like, it's really cool that you have that, but just take advantage of it. Like really use that as a resource. And if you have the resources available and the skills and you've actually worked for all, you know, towards all that stuff, maybe think about going to a college. It definitely does not have to be that one. There's so many options now. And graphic design teaches you a lot of things too. So find a community college with a program in that.
I'll say I think college is just good for like your social skills to develop.
Oh my god! That was no, for real. That was probably the thing I learned the most. Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, I'm a little comic nerd guy. I'm just drawing all day, and then it's like, yeah, leave me alone. And then you go out into the more of the real world.
You don't want to draw a little guy, then
I just want to draw a little guy. Just leave me alone. That sort of comic book artist introvert thing that I had to grow out of a little bit in order to actually make comics, because so much of it too is like, oh hey, I'm so and so, oh hi, like, oh, do you want to work on a comic? Yeah, you have to be out there for the conversation to even start,
right?
And it's just scary.
and that's the thing. So you go to college, you get your get your degrees and all that stuff. So how do you go from there to making comics professionally? Right? I mean, you're working on some pretty big titles as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Invader Zim and Rick and Morty are pretty big names. Yeah.
So I will say that did come with some of the people I met from college. Absolutely.
Sure.
I started working with an artist, the late Ian McGinty, who he drew. I started on him with actually Hello Kitty comics for Viz Media.
Okay.
Way back when, and he was like, we need a colorist for this book. Hey, do you want to try out to be a colorist? And I was like, yes, I do. So I went and he sent me some pages. I did these really, I think, nice renders at the time of these pages, sent to the editor. The editor said, great, when can you start on this? So I'm like, oh, awesome. I'm doing Hello Kitty. I'm doing Ugly Doll with him. And then he started getting more work at Boom with like Adventure Time and stuff. And he's like, do you want to do any of this? And I was like, yes, I do. So I was doing coloring, and I still do comic coloring pretty frequently. But that was kind of the main thing I started off doing, because I was like, well, I get to do this. I get to make comics. I'm not drawing them or writing them, which is kind of like that's like end goal for me. I'm like, that's what I want to do.
Right.
But I'm like, but I'm in there and I'm doing this, and it's steady. And there's a lot to do with comic coloring. And it was really a great way to learn, like, in the field, deadlines, timelines, how to work with others, how to communicate like via email and stuff. Those first few years are always rocky with that, because you'll have the thing where, and to any comic artists who are listening who have been through this, it's a bummer, but it does happen, and it's okay. You are okay. If you have the thing where you go, oh no, they wanted this thing a week ago, and I haven't emailed. Just email. Yeah. If you just email, they'll understand. Almost, I would say 80% of the time, it's totally cool if you are just in communication. They'll figure out different ways to handle it. It's totally cool. But those early years, you're like, you don't have that confidence or knowledge, and it is scary. And you're like, oh no. So just that happened. I don't know an artist that hasn't happened to. I don't know a comic book artist who hasn't dealt with that on some level. So just, I don't know. I don't know if any aspiring artists are listening, but I'm just like, heads up. That's a helpful thing to know. Is I'm like, you're fine. You're going to deal with some guilt from it for like a year. You're fine. And that's on you. That's your own hang up.
Right.
Believe me. I know. So I started doing those with Boom. One of my friends actually worked in marketing at Oni Press for a while, and said, hey, they're looking for a colorist for one of their upcoming books. I believe they were looking for two. It was Rick and Morty and Invader Zim. They were looking for a colorist. And they were like, how would you like to submit for Invader Zim? And I was like, are you kidding me? I would love to submit for Invader Zim. Yeah. That was one of my favorite shows as a kid.
I was just going to ask, yeah.
Oh, I know. I was like, I really loved it. That and, Squee and Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
Yeah.
Again, all the stuff where I'm like, how am I getting these?
Why is the Hot Topic person selling me these comics? They should not. I'm too young.
Why is nobody stopping me? Is it because I'm tall? I don't know. So, but I was like a big fan of that, and I was like, oh, I would love to test for that. So I test for Invader Zim, and I get it, and they're like, so, and it was contracted. I think it was like 4 issues at a time. But they went so well that they're like, keep coming back. And then they're just like, you're the colorist now. You're just the colorist now. And I was like, fantastic. So except for guest issues where most of the creative team would bring in their own friends, or like, they'd be like, oh, I work with this person, their own partners and stuff. I would be doing the main run of the series, and I did that till about till it ended, which happened to dovetail with when I started drawing more of Invader Zim. I drew a few issues in the run there as well. That's when I started drawing. I drew issue 33 as a guest issue.
Nice.
I co-drew issue 49 with Meg Casey. And then I drew I had a quarterly issue as well. I'm trying to remember. It was Invader Zim quarterly because I moved it to quarterly for like a year after the main series ended.
Okay.
And I did issue 4, Zim's Greatest Plan. And then that series was wrapping up. They're like, okay, the license is ending. We're wrapping up the series. Everyone's kind of like, we've had a big comeback, and it's like, but there's a limit. And I'm like, yeah, fair enough. And that dovetailed nicely with Oni doing Rick and Morty comics, and I got to do one as I was wrapping the Zim. So I start drawing Bird Person with Alex Fear, who I've collaborated on with a bunch of books at this point. He's the Rick and Morty writer that I work with the most. He's really good, really talented. But yeah, so that kind of stuff started there. I started drawing more of that, and eventually got to write some Rick and Morty. Still drawing Rick and Morty, and now I'm doing the Doughboys book. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey. The art side, the drawing side has been more in the past 5 years. A lot of it was coloring with occasional backups and inking jobs and stuff, but most of that was colors. And the past 5 years have been really exciting to be able to stretch my legs there. So yeah. That's a bit long way to say, but that's the rundown about who I am, how I got here.
Well, no, it's interesting to hear. I think everybody we have on here has a very different tale about how they went from zero to hero, essentially. It's very interesting to hear that you put in a lot of work doing inks and colors and stuff to get yourself into penciling. Whereas some people take the route of I'm just going to publish my own comics, and then they maybe make it that way. It's very cool to hear that, because I think we've heard your tale a little bit less than we've heard the other, which I feel is the inverse of what I feel a lot of people tell the stories at conventions and stuff. So maybe we're just talking to different creators, but that's very cool. I guess Danny, maybe I'll kick it over to you before I just ask every single question. If you have a question for Fred, other's we can just go through things.
Just real quick on the license stuff. Do you have to adapt your art style much to make sure that it fits the aesthetics? I mean, Rick and Morty has a distinct look, Invader Zim has a distinct look.
Yeah, no. Definitely you do. I would say the first Zim I did, because it was a guest issue, they said, you can kind of do it in your own style. People are doing that. Casey Green was doing some. So it was a lot looser. They weren't this has to look like this specific. It was much more generally, they're just kind of do it in your own kind of way. Just make them look like the characters. And I'm like, got it. Don't go too far, but later issues, I was I do want to try and match the style more. And of course, the last issue, I'm I just figured it out. And Rick and Morty too, that one has taken some time to sort of to figure out, because initially they're very simple designs, but this goes back to what I was saying about the Pinky and the Brain book. I did want to put a little bit of myself into it too, a little bit of and that's just going to happen either way. So you don't really need to try for it. Just the way it's like handwriting. You're oh, that's just my style. That's just how that looks if I do that.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying very deliberately, and I don't know how much it comes across for people, but I'm trying to give the comics and the characters dynamic poses to give them a real sense of movement, since they're all static pages. And the show has these very rigid character designs, but they move and they flow because they are moving and flowing from spot to spot. But in the comic, you don't have that. And so in order to keep everybody from looking very static and stilted, I try and give them interesting poses. I try and use strong lines of action to really sell movement and sort of, I don't know, just sort of give it that real energetic feel, I guess, that the show has, but that when you're just if you draw it too on model, you're going to start seeing yourself lose some of that fluidity, which I love in cartooning, and I love to try and push that as much as I can. And so far, no pushbacks on that.
Yeah. And do you have to keep up with the series, or do you do that just to as
I try to keep up with the series. I'm behind now only because I keep up with the series as much as it is on streaming. I have, right? I guess how I'd say it. Yeah, that's about where I'm at with it. Where I'm like, okay, I've seen everything that is currently on streaming. I know it's back, but I haven't purchased the season or anything. But I also have like the big art books with like, here's what these characters look like, which are great for reference. One of the artists,
you can get Rick's little drool.
Yes, right. Yeah. Oh, you can go crazy with that. It's fun. Actually, one of the artists was nice enough to give me like this big reference folder. Mark Ellerby, who is like he's the Rick and Morty comic artist. He does like he did most of the series with Kyle Starks. He's done so much of it. Still doing a bunch of it. Like he must have done 50 issues of that by now.
Yeah,
I don't know, but he's done a ton of it. So he's like super good, and I'm like, that guy's incredible. And so he like had the stack. He's like, hey, if you need any of this, here it is in a folder. Some reference stuff you can go through. I'm like, that's so cool. Nice.
So cool.
Yeah. So it's super cool. But yeah, I try and push it a little bit. It's an interesting challenge to try and adapt it. Meeseeks PI was a really fun one though, because because it's a spin-off show or spin-off comic, you get to have a little bit more freedom and looseness with how you're drawing it. That one I leaned heavy shadows, noir, like really trying to do these stronger renderings that you do not see in Rick and Morty most of the time, and really give it that like neo-noir flair of like, this is like, it's not going to be in black and white because, colorists got to eat.
Because they're blue, right?
Yeah, because he's blue too. Yeah, but it's my little love letter to like old noir movies and Sin City. There's a Sin City section that I just was like, I'm just doing a big joke on Sin City in this panel.
Nice.
I don't care. I love it. So yeah, very fun to be able to experiment with the form more there and really play with that. So they've been giving me like a good amount of leeway to just sort of take the Rick and Morty characters for some of these stories and see where they lead. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you a bunch of other questions, but unfortunately, I think you've answered all of them, which is great. I love that. So, I think we're running a little long here today, so I think we're going to wrap up right now. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more specifically about Hondo Anaka, I wrote down.
Let's do it.
I think to wrap us up here, where can people find you on the internet, and what should they look out for from you next? What's coming out next?
Okay, so you can find me on Blue Sky. I'm Fred C. Stressing at Blue Sky. That's stressing with one S. I'm also at Fred C. Stressing with one S on Instagram. And upcoming, I have, let's see. So I'm doing the Doughboys, Nick and Mitch Chew America, Crisis on Infinite Girths. It's hard to say. Miniseries, which is available at the website beourkids.com, and I'm saying it so you don't go. It's called beourkids.com. It's the Doughboys Kids Club for adults.
Okay.
And it comes with a little toy, and it's a lot of fun to do this book. We're having a great time adapting the Doughboys podcast into a weird road trip with demons and murder and fast food, and it's crazy what we're getting to do. We're having such a good time. And also, I believe in October, my next Rick and Morty issue will be out. It's part of the Rick and Morty universe that Daniel Kibblesmith is doing. And it's a spinoff of that called Last Mort Standing. And I think it's going to be pretty cool. It's a sort of all-out brawl between Mortys, and that's all I want to say about it. But that should be out in October. And that's about it.
That's amazing, dude. Sorry, I'm laughing because the insanity of Rick and Morty still tickles me. And every once in a while, I just like that Kyle Starks run is definitive for me. So I'm very excited to see what you're gonna do with this. Crisis on Infinite Morts or whatever, We'll
see.
That's great. Well, cool. I think that's where we're gonna wrap things up for today. So thank you everybody for listening. Thank you to everybody hanging out with us on Discord. Next week, guess what? We are gone. The show is over for a whole month, for just 1 month. We're taking the month of July off. Sorry if this is a surprise, but we will be dropping a few things in the main feed, so keep an eye out for those. We're going to have more stuff out on our Patreon. I will say folks are going to be getting their zines, but we're taking just a breather, and we'll be back in August to talk about all sorts of fun stuff. So keep an eye out for on the IRCB Patreon, where everyone can see our schedule. I feel really weird about taking a full month off, but it's weird. Anyways, but
if you missed Mike talking nonsense comics, you can always join the Patreon, join our Discord, and bother Mike there while we're on break.
Believe me, we'll still be reading comics while we are not recording episodes of the show, but we'll be back in August. It's going to be a really good time. So I don't know, it's very weird. I don't know how to announce it without feeling like I'm giving away my child to a stranger. You know what I mean? That's the only way I can think to pitch it. So thank you to everybody for listening. We'll catch you all in August. Thank you to Danny for being here today. Thank you, Fred, again for coming on the show and for working on the zine. Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, this has been great.
It's been a fantastic time. I can't wait to talk to you more about HeroClix was what I also wrote down.
Yes.
That'll be available on Patreon. Thank you to Zander for editing the show. Thank you to everyone else. Thank you to Kara for proof listening. Until next time, comics are good, and so are you.